724-972-5481. That is our number if you'd like to ask Keith a question this morning. 972-5481. We're going to keep him on until the top of the hour, 8 o'clock. Right after the bottom of the hour news, we'll be back on with Keith. Keith, tell us what your message is. What's your message to people when you knock on doors now that you've kind of gone through this process of settling the lawsuit and stuff now?
The message has always been, I'm here to serve. I'm here to listen. You know, I think most politicians probably say that, but it's true. I hand out a lot of information at the door, so I don't have to say much. Read this over, and the information is stuff I've been saying for months. Mm-hmm. No one's above the law. We need economy and jobs. We need to have smart money solutions on the council, and we need to change from the inside. I think, the council needs to be focusing on principles and big picture and final goals, and how do all these decisions get us to those final goals, rather than trying to do 100 good things on the way to not meeting any future big plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The 4th district was Bill Lover's seat, and Bill Lover, while he didn't run a campaign out of the district, he was an at-large guy, so his primaries were citywide and his races were citywide in the past. But he came off as the uber conservative, mm-hmm. to the point where his willingness to basically claim fiscal responsibility and say no to everything really isolated him from the council. I mean, it was oftentimes a 6-bill vote, six on one side or 5 bill. In terms of characterizing yourself, I would say that our council has swung liberal with the addition of the newest members. How do you position yourself on that scale? I mean, a lot of people don't like labels, but they in a conservative town, I think they do matter. And how do you characterize yourself?
Well, I've been clear.
You mentioned Trump, so
I've been clear as to who I am and what I believe, and that is absolute spend less. I think raising taxes, I think it's thievery. Sometimes I even hate to say that sometimes it may be necessary, because I think a council that's not willing to take a hard look at cutting costs while they take a look at raising revenue in 3 or 4 areas, I think that's a crime.
How do you feel about the parking fees potentially going up?
Parking fees, I don't like it. We looked at the meeting where they talked about it, the committee meeting. They talked about the cost of putting those parking meters in, the revenue that it brought in. It wasn't impressive to me how much revenue compared to, I don't think towns our size with as much parking as we have, I don't think we need to charge for parking. Parking meters are to limit how many people drive downtown, to limit how much time people stay in the stalls. I don't think it should be a revenue grab.
So you wouldn't, how about car tab fees? Same kind of feeling? Let's touch all the bases here.
Sure. Car tab fees, not for it. I made a statement. I mentioned at another forum. Wouldn't it be interesting? If people want to do car tabs, maybe do it on newer cars. Because that would be people that could afford it. Then at least you're dealing with the argument. The argument right now is, well, you're going to be taxing poor people as much as those who are more wealthy, and $20 to someone who doesn't have grocery money all the time is a little too much. That's the argument right now.
Just put a smile on Tommy's face. He hates the car tab process.
Right.
Don't you?
I do, man.
And the question is, why are they looking at it for a 4th time?
Gosh, yeah. I mean,
are there no principles to act by? Can you not say, well, let's look at cost-saving measures? Now, they did increase the coffers by $2 million from last year. Went up from 12 to 14 or something. My numbers are probably off. Shoot.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're
don't try to fact check me on.
I'm not, because I'm not.
But
sure
it did
where you're
go
headed.
up.
But So, if I read you right, then we either continue to watch sales tax grow because of increased business and business opportunity, rather than try to augment that through other, intentional revenue enhancements or cost cutting. As you look across the city, and nobody's an expert, please keep in mind that I'm not expecting that you're an expert. Anybody who's coming in for the first time doesn't know what they don't know, because I was one of them.
Right.
And so, but if you say we got to be willing to look at cost cutting and things like that, are you aware of anything that goes on in the city that you would just flat out say off the top? For example, we could do away with this, or we could reduce that. Do you have any of those kinds of things off the top of your head, or is that
Not off the top of my head.
process of doing the job and being on the job and being exposed to that kind of information?
Right. I think those type of conversations are going to happen with the council members, the city manager, and the department heads. There's so many ways I imagine that we could enlist some volunteer help from the community. And I think that's where a lot of cost savings are going to come from, because everyone wants to see their city beautiful and crime-free and cleaned up.
We do, but I don't know that I want to give up my Saturdays to go downtown and do it. That will be the interesting question there. Got to take a quick break for news, Keith. We're talking with Keith Effler, candidate in the 4th District. He's going to stick around for the next half hour with us. If you do have a question for the candidate, feel free to give us a buzz. Fox News is next. You've come to the right place. You want inspiration? You want inspiration? You want a demonstration? You want perspiration? Conversation? Liberation? We got it all.
We do.
Yes,
Wow.
no, we need.
The
No?
perspiration part
Oh,
too.
we're low on perspiration.
No, we got lots of that. We got it all, man. Hey, we continue our conversation with District 4 City Council candidate, Mr. Keith Effler. Thanks for coming in this morning, Keith.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it very much. Hey, we got a Facebook. Hey, out there, Yakima, we've got our Facebook page, and hey, you can get on that and ask us questions and make comments. And one of our listeners did make a comment and has a question for you this morning. How do you feel about sanctuary cities? What's your stance on sanctuary cities?
How do I feel? No, I'm against sanctuary cities. How about that?
Yeah.
Say it
simple.
straight out the gate. That being said, I want you to maybe listen to how I think here, because this is kind of telling. The sanctuary city issue is that people are afraid that those who are here illegally but residing within our city limits are afraid to talk to the police. And creating a sanctuary city is the solution to that. We don't need a sanctuary city. We don't need to not cooperate with federal authorities, when it comes to people being brought into custody, processed for a crime, and at that point, reporting whether or not they have citizenship. But what we need is to be loving to the people within our city gates, as you will, and create scenarios where they know that they can talk to a police officer without being asked about their citizenship. It could be a sticker on a police car. It could
I was going to say, how do you do that?
Right.
Yeah.
It could be a billboard. It could be a radio campaign. It could be, have a kiosk where they can come talk to this person, and have a safe space where they can come in. Okay, this one coffee shop, this one gas station, that's a safe place. You can come in and talk there. I don't know if that passes legal muster, but these are the types of ideas we need to be working with in order to solve the problem, rather than creating a scenario where we're not cooperating with authorities.
DACA, along the same lines, how do you feel about the DACA? I know the city council has sent a letter supporting the DACA program to the president. Would you agree? Would you have signed that letter for the city council? Do you support DACA?
Yeah. I support naturalization of anyone who meets the requirements that people have to go through now. If they're a contributing member of society, if they have a criminal-free record, if they have a job, if they, those types of things. Absolutely. Go through a citizenship process. Sure. I don't know if the letter they sent mentioned anything like that. So I don't know if the DACA program works like that, but if it did, yeah, I would have signed that. I wouldn't have signed any sort of blanket amnesty, because that's not wise.
What would you say, Keith, is the job of a city council member? Alien ship comes down, lands, walks out, take me to your leader. They take you to you. And they say, what is your job? What do you say? What is it that is the job of a city council person in Yakima?
Well, if you're asking me, I think the job of the city council member is to make sure that the city is better in 20 years, 40 years. You know, the infrastructure, the parks, the facilities, things like that, and financially sound. So the decisions you make now, make sure that you're not going to be creating a problem for the city council 50 years or 100 years from now, because the infrastructure that you okayed to be built is now, you know, it's not going to last. Things like that. I think the job of a city council member is to make sure that there's perpetuity in the financial well-being of the city, so that the city can tackle problems as they come up and have reserves to tackle problems.
So, but you're not a revenue boosting kind of guy. So, how do we restore those reserves? Is it just through cuts? Lance had a story in his news this morning about business incubator kitchen, community kitchen, or whatever, job opportunities there, or career business starting opportunities.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you see that as a city's job, to invest money now in something that might create more businesses down the road that then generate taxes, or what's your take on the whole business incubator sort of thing?
The business incubator worries me a little bit, because the city is investing their dollars in a specific business. And
or at least the infrastructure that would support certain kinds of businesses, if it's restaurants or whatever. I don't know if the
Right.
actual final plan. Council went back to Washington D.C. a few years ago and visited one of these places, and it was a big, giant complex, and there were all kinds of businesses working out of there. Most of them were food oriented, and there were kitchen spaces, and people were making up their lunch bags that they went out and sold out of trucks, and doing all different kinds of things like that, helping to get their foot going. And I think that's kind of what inspired some of this, because it was really interesting to see how, with a little infrastructural help, a lot of entrepreneurs started kicking out products and having their dreams and ideas start to come to fruition. So I don't know that it's like a business, but maybe a certain theme or type of business, be it restaurant or whatever. So yeah, just to clarify that a little bit. That worries you that it's sort of directed to a certain direction rather than a widespread direction, or how would you describe that?
I guess the as a representative of the people, and let's say that an existing business is paying tax and paying sales tax, and all of a sudden their tax is going to starting up maybe a competitor. Now there's a general assumption in at least the advertising world that restaurants are non-compete. Like if you run a non-compete business model where only one chiropractor can advertise, only one photographer can advertise, you usually allow as many restaurants as possible, because there's enough business for everyone. So maybe that torpedo is my idea from
not
earlier.
necessarily, but it is the idea of spending everybody's tax dollars on a system then that would help specific individuals. But there is that. Is that the city's job? Is it the city's job to give, let's say that we're our own little community here, and Jackson wants to build a restaurant, but he can't make it on his own. You're the city management. You say, we're going to put in $100,000 and build a business incubator. Jackson comes straight to you, gets a spot, gets his toe in the water, gets a finger hold, and next thing you know, he's putting Lance and I and our restaurants out of business because he's now out and on his own and doing great.
Right.
Is
And that's
that
the
your
point.
job to
That's
start
the point.
that, or is it not your job Is your job administrative to make the red tape quicker and easier and better for Jack? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You know, you want to help.
Right.
Because sales tax is one of the ways that you'll get the money to do what it is that you want to do.
Now, if you're looking to just to incubate business, I think the city can do some very reasonable things. I think the city can take a look at the big picture of what economies we have here in Yakima, what manufacturing and ag, and maybe take a look at what businesses don't we have, and what businesses could help our businesses here in town. You know, what are some symbiotic relationships that could be put into place, and then maybe court that type, but not a specific business. Say, hey, we're taking applications to fill this, one spot of land. We'll give you a tax break for a few years. We'd like to attract this industry here in town because it will make business in Yakima more fluid and more successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think with our building code and our environmental study requirements, things like that, I think if we're putting any more regulation on a business than the state requires, I think we should cut that out.
Keith, there's been a lot of talk about the strong mayor form of government as opposed to what we have now as a city manager form. Do you support a change like that? There's been a push for a change.
Well,
in Yakima.
I hope you realize by now I'm not a top-down kind of guy. I'm a very much bottom-up kind of guy. I'm not in favor of the strong mayor. I think those who are in favor, I think it's a bit of a reaction to losing the at-large positions that on the city council, and that's a fair argument. But I think we should give the council a little bit time to redirect and sort of flesh out who we are in terms of how the districts vote and who they vote for and what, like you said, we took a big swing to the left, and I think it's a reaction against that, and I think it will course correct a little bit. Unless you believe the Yakima Herald, and they endorsed all three left-leaning candidates. So,
KIT News Time is 7:53. We're talking with Yakima City Council candidate Keith Effler in District 4. Keith, how do you feel about a push for an East Side pool, and where do we get the money for an East Side pool?
Yeah, those are two very different questions. How do I feel about an East Side pool?
Do you support an East Side pool?
Well, there's the YMCA out there. The place in town that has the highest concentration of young people per capita is over in the north part of town, kind of around 16th to 6th, in that area. That has the highest per capita, at least on the map I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
That is the place. Now, obviously we're talking about how do I feel about an East Side pool. I would love to see a pool or a big fancy park over there. How do you pay for it? Right now we can't. Unless we increase the economy, unless we bring more business in, we can't. We're overstretched on capital budgets. It's a ridiculous conversation to have right now.
Plaza. How do you feel about the plaza? You support the plaza? For $3 million worth of city money?
Yeah.
1.8
1.8
months. 2 1/3 months to go to get the rest of the money.
Right.
Have we heard an update?
Well, the update is that they're about halfway there, Dave, in terms of the fundraising, a little more than halfway.
5.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I've gone on a roller coaster on this plaza deal. When they first announced it, I was excited for especially the Yakima Avenue portion, where they were gonna reinvent what Yakima Avenue looks like, make it much more pedestrian friendly. I really liked that. And then it got reduced down to just a plaza, and I think it has its value. I remember Dave. Yeah, you looked at me surprised because at a forum we had this conversation, and you specifically said, well, it's speculated to bring in how much money? 70 million a year. Is that it?
$70 million of investment,
right,
to the greater downtown area.
And at that point, I was having a hard time with it because I had a little voice in my ear saying, the businesses downtown paid for that parking lot, and what's the city's real rights. Of course, the city owns it, but the businesses downtown did their own fundraising to make that into a parking lot. And I think the city has done such a good job recently of expanding parking situations, expanding the on-the-street angled parking. Now, for those listening, I want you to know that there's lots of parking downtown. And what I will do in my power, if I can, is make it more visible. All you need is you just choose a symbol, choose a pink obelisk or something like that to go at the entrance to every parking lot. And as soon as you see that pink obelisk,
I think pink's already been taken, but I get the
okay,
point.
right, yeah, it's the
Obelisk
point.
with a notable color.
I'm not recommending a specific mechanism here, but yeah, people don't know that there's free parking because the signs aren't that
Right,
visible.
it is not marked like it could be. There is a great little map that the city puts out, but not everybody stops to get a map. Well, those are the high points. I think that have been talked about and that have been in the news. Again, it's the kind of thing that we could chat about for a couple of hours.
Yeah,
but,
that's for sure.
We're closing in on the end of time.
Keith, I guess the last question we have for you is what's why should people elect you and not your challenger?
Ballots
Why?
went out last week. They'll be showing up all across the 4th District today, tomorrow, the next couple days, and they're going to open it up. They're going to see Keith Effler, 4th District. What makes that little box the one to check?
I'm the guy that likes to work with people. My competitor is very top-down, very management-oriented, very, she, I'm not going to go negative. So she just doesn't think like me. And the way I think is we can do this together. We can pull resources. I'm not about going to jump the gun and tax you. I'm not going to impose regulations on you that we don't need. In fact, I plan on deregulating as much as possible. That's how I think. In retrospect, my campaign slogan was "No one's above the law." I was thinking last night, it might have been, let's fight evil.
Whoa, evil in the city of Yakima.
Evil. And that could have covered a wide gamut. Let's fight evil. So,
This is true.
and sometimes you can fight evil with good. And not just with force.
Right on.
Well, I have a minute left. I could ask for names of those who are evil, but I'm not going to do it. We'll let you off the hook and say thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you,
Ballots are
guys.
going out.